I'm one of those people that people tend to open up to. I was talking to an elderly man recently, and he suddenly told me about his childhood. He lived with his parents in an expensive house in the best part of the city, with a huge garden and a stream at the bottom of the garden. His mother left his father for a worker who came to work at home and moved with him to a slum in the city center, where there was a shared toilet in the backyard with neighbors. More than 60 years later, he still couldn't come to his senses from what had happened. It must have been some kind of magic that the seducer possessed, he said. This conversation was the impetus for writing this story. I never thought that I would write a story about reconciliation. It's not usually my style. In any case, there is an exception to every rule. Michael slowed down as he drove along the embankment to let a passing bus pass. Even on this cloudy spring day, people were strolling along the seashore. The dogs chased balls, splashed in the water, and shook themselves dry. Grandparents looking after their grandchildren wheeled them in strollers past sunken gardens and a lake. Michael always liked it here when he was a kid. His parents often took him to the lake with them, allowing him to steer a tiny rented boat around the small island in the middle. He loved these opportunities to get behind the wheel when his parents, huddled together in the back seat, joked about his driving. God, those old boats smelled and they were so noisy. But he loved them. He loved that time. Now there are only rowing boats on the lake. It's quieter and more environmentally friendly here, but not as much fun, Michael mused. His parents divorced when he was 9 years old. It was the biggest shock of his life. His parents always seemed so close. His friend's parents divorced, but they didn't even seem to like each other. It was obvious to Michael that his parents adored each other. That's why there was no point in his mom giving up all that for an affair with a worker who came to build a stone fireplace. It's not surprising that the design became bigger and more thoughtful, because he obviously had plans for his mother. When she left, he watched her get into the work van. She seemed hesitant, her shoulders slumped. Looking back, to an adult Michael, she seemed to be the saddest woman in the world, not a woman consumed by great passion. In his childish eyes, he just wanted his mom. He remembered the roar with which his father smashed this fireplace, without taking off his office suit. He stacked every piece of stone in the driveway before they were used to create countless rockeries in the neighborhood. The original fireplace was reinstalled, and my father never saw my mother again. Michael didn't see her very often, but she was still his mom. She put up with his childish nature, and then with teenage bitterness on the rare occasions when they met. Michael finally turned into the parking lot of a nursing home overlooking the lake. It was unlike any retirement home he had ever imagined. It was more like an upscale hotel. It wasn't like the dreary council houses with corridors that smelled of cabbage. This house smelled of flowers, often scented with lilies from fresh bouquets that were in every room. There was a grand piano in the foyer, surrounded by mirrors. In addition, there was a ballroom with a stage where many invited artists performed. On the ground floor, there were various lounges, a game room, a library, and 2 restaurants. It cost thousands of pounds a month to stay here, even in the small rooms at the back of the house with views of the trash cans. The premier rooms were more like a suite, with a balcony and a view of the lake and the beach beyond. His father, Samuel, lived in one of these rooms. His father was a wealthy man and apparently had considerable business skills. He won't have a problem paying for the upkeep of the house, even if he lives to be 200 years old. He was 82 now. He decided to move to a nursing home. As his mobility decreased, it became increasingly difficult for him to navigate his large house. He was in good physical shape and healthy in all other respects. So he didn't need nurses, he needed company. Samuel missed having company and people to talk to. Of course, they could have hired nurses for the company, but Samuel was well aware that this would have been just a professional courtesy. They would have been paid to show interest and listen. He wanted people to communicate with him on their own. He wanted to talk to people his age who understood what it was like when your body could no longer keep up with your active mind. Therefore, he decided to move to the Smuggler's Rest nursing home. It was the right decision. Although Michael was now very busy taking care of the many business interests of the business that had passed to him from his father, he was still able to visit him occasionally. They were very close and very similar. After the divorce, Samuel raised him alone. Generally speaking, it was unusual for a father to get custody of a child. However, this was not unusual if the father was rich and could afford to hire the best lawyers that money could buy, and when it could be proved that the mother did not have the financial means to support her son and moreover cheated on her husband. In those days, women were judged harshly. She was a whore, a wanton, an evil woman. Michael certainly judged his mother harshly back then. He still condemns her almost 50 years later. He never forgave her for cheating on his father, for cheating on their family. He needed her, and she dumped him for some penniless, uncouth guy. She left her doting husband, loving son, and beautiful home to live in a van in a farmer's field without running water. Yes, the guy must have offered her something really great. Michael was brought back from his memories when Jenny, the receptionist, coughed politely. "I'm sorry," Michael said. "I was miles away." "Where's Dad? Is he in his room or in one of the restrooms?" "No," Jenny replied. "He left in a minibus. He and your mom went shopping. They'll be back in about a quarter of an hour." It took Michael a while to process what he had heard. "What do you mean, my mother?" "My father divorced my mother 48 years ago. Whoever he's with, it's definitely not my mother." Jenny looked worried about Michael's sudden outburst. He was usually such a sweet, gentle person. She didn't want to upset him. Mr. Jennings, the manager, came over. "Jenny's right. Mr. and Mrs. Jones went shopping together." "Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Marcia Jones?" "Yes," said Mr. Jennings. "Your mother has recently moved in here. Your parents spend a lot of time together." "Well, actually, they spend all their time together. She booked one of the standard rooms at the back of the hotel, but Mr. Jones insisted that she move into his suite. He said she would prefer the view from the window." "Are you all right, Mr. Jones? You look a little pale. Sit down, and I'll ask someone to bring tea, with a lot of sugar, I think." Michael went into the nearest living room, sat down on one of the very large and expensive sofas, and stared out the large panoramic window, hardly seeing the embankment, lake, or beach. "That's it, Mr. Jones. Do you mind if I call you Michael? By the way, I'm Jason. I see that I shocked you. I assumed that you knew that your parents were together." "I'm sorry. It was unprofessional of Jenny to say this in such a manner, but it was done quite innocently. She's a wonderful girl." He smiled, looking at the lovely Jenny. If only he were 10 years younger, well, 20 years younger, he would love to make her Jenny Jennings. "Shocked me. My parents have been divorced for almost 50 years, Jason, so you could say that. I can't believe it. I've seen her from time to time over the years. As far as I know, my father hasn't seen her since he kicked her out of our house many years ago. After that, he raised me alone. Although, when I became an adult, he got married again. It didn't last long. He has been single for the last 20 years. "And the mother?" Jason asked quietly. "Well, she went to a man. She left my father, but that man died soon after. I haven't seen her in 10 years. We lost contact after she was upset that she wasn't invited to my wedding. I was 46 when I got married. I had trust issues after what happened to my parents. Fortunately, I eventually found the right person for me, and by the age of 50, I was already the father of 2 children. Oh, yes, I saw the boys when they came to visit Grandpa Sam. He is very proud of them and of you. He talks a lot about you and your charming wife. The daughter he never had. He calls her that. My wife Eva likes all the fuss he makes about her, and she responds in kind. She really wanted Dad to move in with us, but he refused and chose to move here as the easiest option for everyone. So your mom has never met your family?" "No, although she knows about them. Maybe we don't communicate with her, but we are close to her sister, my Aunt Sue. I told Sue that I had no problem with her sharing photos, but I didn't want to talk to my mother." "Then that explains it all." "What is it?" "Well, before she moved out of one of our small rooms, out of one of our standard rooms, all the surfaces and most of the wall were covered with your photos and your son's. She also kept a picture of your father by her bed when he was young, although we recognized him anyway." "Are you saying that you encouraged this reconciliation, Jason?" "No, quite the opposite, Michael. We were worried that Samuel would be angry if he found out that his ex-wife was here. Of course, he is one of our privileged guests and already lived here before Mrs. Jones moved in with us. If he was upset about something, we would have cautiously asked Marcia to leave. So why didn't you do it?" "Well, as soon as I was informed, I went to talk to your father, and, What? "Well, let's just say that I've discovered that Mr. and Mrs. Jones have come to an understanding on their own." Michael looked at Jason's flushed face, who was trying not to meet his gaze. "Are you trying to tell me that you found my parents in bed, Jason?" "Yes, I was afraid that he had fallen, and I heard groans, so I used my access key. I understand that some of our most active residents sneak around the halls at night. However, this is the first time I've witnessed this myself. My apologies." "Well, Jason, I hope you're getting paid well. That's all I can say," Michael snorted. Are you not happy with this news, apart from the shock? No, I'm not happy that my parents have reconciled after so many years, and I have to wonder about my mother's plans. There are many women who would do much worse for such a beautiful room and a view like this, and unfortunately, I already know about her low morals. However, your displeased look when you told this story amused me a lot. Yes, Jason said. It wasn't my best hour, and it was definitely a shock. So my mom kept all those photos that my aunt gave her. I framed them and hung some of them on a large canvas on the wall. Well, Michael said, that makes me happy, that she still cares about Dad. Had my father seen her room? He saw it when he asked her to move into his apartment. He seemed particularly moved by the photograph she had left by her bed. Oh, and here's the minibus. I'll leave you two alone. I'm sure you'll want to talk to both of them. Michael turned his head and saw his father coming down the ramp in the back of the van. His mom was as charming as ever, her short-cropped hair now more white than blonde. She still had a slender figure and good posture, despite the diamond-studded cane she was holding in her hand. Turning the chair, his father smiled at Marcia, and she looked at him with love. It was the look Michael remembered from childhood, the look she had given his father at the stern of a boat on the lake many years ago. Michael was suddenly angry. Why now? Why couldn't they forgive each other all those decades ago? He was already in his 50s, and he began using his own geriatric version of the parental trap. Many years ago, he prayed for his parents to be together again. He prayed to God and even asked Santa. To no avail. Too late, he thought, too late. Michael, Sam said, pulling up on a gurney. They told me you were here. What a pleasant surprise. How are the boys doing? Did they win their football match? Are you all alone now? Dad, where did Mom go? She's good at disappearing, isn't she? Don't be like that, son. I'm sure it came as a bit of a shock to you. But if you want, I'll explain. Michael was silent until suddenly he said, Oh, please tell me. It's important, I need to hear it. I'm sorry for the way I've behaved all these years. I'm sorry for what I did. You have nothing to apologize for. It's all because of her. Yes, I perfectly understand what your mother did. It broke my heart. I felt it was unforgivable. I loved her so much that I couldn't get past it. I kicked her out and refused to have anything to do with her. She hurt me too much. She left us. But she didn't want to. She wanted to stay with you, with me, but I was so angry. It hurt so much that I refused to listen. Infidelity has become an obstacle for me on the way to an agreement. In the end, even though I loved her, even though I knew she was sorry, I couldn't forgive her. At that time, I was sure that I was doing the right thing. By the time I realized that I had made a mistake, it was already too late. I waited a long time before starting another relationship. You know how it turned out. It wasn't the fault of these women. They loved me, but they weren't your mother. Dad, are you seriously trying to tell me that you've spent 50 years pining for a woman who cheated on you? No, not really. To some extent, I've moved on. I've been successful in my life, but it's true that I've never stopped loving her. I've never stopped regretting that I couldn't find a drop of compassion in my heart for her. She hurt me, but I was unnecessarily cruel to her. I took everything from her. Friends, family, status, but most of all, I took you away from her. It was the cruelest of all. I punished her, but it was her fault. She made a mistake, just one mistake. Sleeping with someone else wasn't a mistake. It was her choice. Well, she regretted this choice very quickly. One afternoon, he got her drunk. I know she shouldn't have put herself in that position. I know she was wrong, and the fact that she was drunk is no excuse, but she was manipulated. I should have protected her, but I didn't. Dad, why are you blaming yourself? Is it because you're so lonely here and you're desperate for company? No, I wasn't lonely, even before she arrived. It was the right decision to move here. It's actually very simple. It's because I still love her. My life would be better if she was around. I don't have much time left, and I'm not wasting any more time. I need to be with my beloved again before it's too late. Dad, this drunken seduction turned into a serious relationship. Have you forgotten about it? I didn't give her a choice. She had no choice but to go to him. I made sure that she had no one else to turn to. This is my biggest regret. I do not know what to say. I need to talk to my mom. She's at the bar. I think she needs to cheer up a bit. Michael looked at his watch and grumbled. It's not even noon yet. Samuel laughed. When you're the same age as the people here, it really doesn't matter. We try to have fun whenever we can. Just try not to be so judgmental, Michael. You look like me. That's exactly how I used to be, And look what it cost me. It cost us. Marcia Jones was sitting in a quiet corner of the bar, sipping a large glass of rose wine. It was obvious that she had been crying. Even after everything that had happened, it was hard for Michael to see his mother upset. He handed her his handkerchief. Just like your father. He always has a real handkerchief. How are you, Mom? I'm glad to see you. I'm glad to see your dad again, to spend some time with him. And I'm terribly afraid that you won't approve. When have you ever worried about what I think? You haven't been interested in my opinion since I was 9 years old. Marcia took a deep breath. That's not true. I've always taken care of you and loved you. These last 10 years, when I haven't seen you at all, have almost killed me. I know I let you down, and I know I don't deserve this, but I want you to love me again. Michael sighed and absently rubbed his hands on his hips. I've always loved you. Mom, I just don't like you very much. It's funny that I didn't want to see you at the wedding because I felt like I had to choose between you and Dad. I chose him and completely lost you. Now the two of you are living together like a youth's dream, and it seems like the last 50 years have never happened. I've never stopped loving Samuel. He has always been the love of my life. I'm not ready to lose him again. I can't give it up. Even for you. Then why? You don't cheat on people if you love them. I understand. I've had all these decades to think about why I did what I did. I knew then that I was attractive. You were beautiful, Michael said simply. Well, that's what your father always said. Jeff was working around the house, and we started talking. He clearly made it clear that he found me attractive and showed attention while I treated him to a cup of tea. I admit, I liked the attention. It seemed harmless. One afternoon, he took a bottle of wine out of his work bag, and I succumbed. It's not an excuse, but he knew exactly what he was doing. At first, I even tried to refuse, but in the end I gave in. It just seemed easier to just agree. Then I was so ashamed. I took a shower. I felt bad, hated what had happened. Before that, your father was my rock, but now I felt bad. That's how your father found us. I was in the shower, and Jeff was stretched out on the bed in the guest room with a big smile on his face. It was obvious what had happened. Your father didn't let me explain anything. And why should he apologize? I didn't deserve an explanation. I didn't deserve his forgiveness. And yet, you ended up in that little van with Jeff, so you couldn't have disliked it that much. Yes, that was my biggest mistake of all. When your dad kicked me out, Jeff was waiting at the end of the driveway. I shouldn't have gotten in his van. What was I thinking? He said he would give me a lift to the station. Of course, I ended up in his van, but for a while we didn't communicate so closely. When this happened, it was my punishment for what I had done, for what I had lost. All these years, I've been wondering if I would have had a chance at forgiveness if I had acted differently instead of going with him. I was so stupid and I only made the situation worse. I foolishly clung to the man who caused my downfall. In the end, we established a kind of relationship. I think Jeff felt guilty in his own way. There was no love lost between us, at least not on my part. When Jeff was under the influence, he told me that he appreciated me, but never when he was in his right mind. It wasn't long before he died in that accident in his van. By that time, your Aunt Sue was talking to me again, and she put me up in a small apartment and got me a job as a secretary. It wasn't until much later that I realized that your father had done it. His business partner had given me a job, and his money had been used to pay the rent. After all, he still cared about me a little. So, how did you end up here? I doubt that a pension allows you to stay here for more than a few months. I won £100,000 on a scratch card. I decided that this would help me win a few years here, where I would be fed, watered, and cared for without worrying about anything. The money was well spent. You see, I was so lonely. Even if I hadn't made friends, I could still communicate, be among people, and not be alone. And then you saw Dad. Yes, I thought my heart would jump out of my chest. I waited for his anger, his contempt, and he just smiled at me. He looked at his friends and said, "You have to excuse me, I'm going to step back for a minute. I need to go and talk to my wife." He told them I was his wife. Imagine, after 48 years of dreaming, hearing him say it so easily, as if he really meant it. I think he really means it, Michael said. He still loves you. Obviously, no woman matched his memories of you. And yet, you ruined his life, yours and mine, until I met Eve. What's in Larkin's poem? They ruined you, your mom and dad, and you two definitely ruined me. Samuel listened in silence and settled down next to Marcia. You should remember the next line of this poem. Son, maybe they didn't want this, but it turned out that way. None of our mistakes should have hurt you, but we both regret what happened. You're 25 years older than we were when we made these mistakes. You're a mature man. So will you support us when you recover from the shock? Michael drummed his fingers on the table for a while. His gaze was fixed on the flower display behind his parents' backs. Finally, he spoke. It doesn't matter what I say. You both made it clear that you don't want to break up again. So my objections will be ignored. It looks like both of you actually rewrote history. I'll agree with your story if it gives you pleasure. I can pretend, but you both need to know that I don't believe it. You seem to have created a scenario in which Mom became a victim of circumstances who said no before giving in to ease the situation. It's easier to have extramarital pleasures, Mom. You forget that I was present at some of the scenes. I know how far you've gone in your attentions to others. Maybe you got away with it at the golf club dance when Dad was busy. His friends knew better than to go too far. They knew that wasn't what you meant. However, Jeff was a completely different person, wasn't he? Since he thought you wanted it, you got it. Maybe you didn't like it. Maybe you felt ashamed and bad. I believe that, but you were still a married woman who was inappropriately paying attention to a strange man. You chose to leave with him and then live with him. We all know that, son, Samuel said. Haven't we been paying for it all these years? Can you just forget about it? This is history. We can just leave it in the past. Oh, I'll forget about it. I told you I'd pretend. I'll even bring Eva and the boys to visit Grandma and Grandpa tonight. I will play my role well, and over time, I may even be grateful that you are back together. I just wanted you both to know that I won't rewrite my story, even if I can try to look into the future. Thank you, son, Samuel said. You're better than we deserve. Michael got up to leave. He always greeted his father with an affectionate gesture when he left him. Today, he hesitated before doing the same to his mother and quickly left the bar. He will need to return to the office soon, and he will need to have a very serious conversation with Eva and possibly support her before he can continue his workday. As he drove out of the parking lot, Michael looked out at the lake and thought of that young couple and their little son who went boating many years ago and smiled.